Before Joe Burrow was the king of Cincinnati, there was Cook. He didn't just play quarterback, he invented the way modern quarterbacks play. Bill Walsh, the genius behind the West Coast offense, once said Greg Cook was the greatest talent he ever coached. Think about that. Better than Joe Montana, better than Steve Young, Cook was the 5th overall pick. As a rookie, he led the AFL in passer rating and yards per completion. He was a 6'4" rocket-armed god among men. But here's the dark part. During a game against the Chiefs, Cook felt a pop in his shoulder. In 1969, sports medicine was basically a cigarette and a slap on the back. He played through a torn rotator cuff for the rest of the season, winning Rookie of the Year while his arm was literally falling off. By the time surgeons opened him up, his shoulder looked like shredded wheat. 1 year of greatness, then silence. The NFL's first true what-if vanished into a world of pain and what could have been. Greg Cook's arm was a casualty of a primitive era. But what happens when the NFL's next big thing is destroyed not by a hit on the field, but by a game of flag football on a beach? Let's talk about the man who was supposed to save the Patriots before Brady was even a thought. In 1998, the New England Patriots didn't have a GOAT. They had a massive hole at running back, and they filled it with Robert Edwards. As a rookie, Edwards was a violent, shifty masterpiece. He rushed for over 1,100 yards and scored 12 touchdowns. He was the future. Then came the Pro Bowl. Not the game, the rookie beach flag football game. It was a PR stunt on the sands of Hawaii. Edwards went up for a pass, landed in the soft sand, and his knee didn't just give out, it exploded. Doctors told him they might have to amputate his leg. He went from the next Emmitt Smith to learning how to walk again in the span of a single afternoon. He eventually made a miracle comeback years later. But the prodigy we saw in '98, he stayed on that beach forever. It's one thing to lose your career to a freak accident. It's another to lose it to a shuffle. If you think a beach game is a weird way to go out, wait until you remember the man who danced his way into a Super Bowl and then straight out of the league. 1988 belonged to Ickey Woods. He was a second-round pick who took the league by storm, rushing for 1,066 yards and 15 touchdowns. But he wasn't just a player. He was a cultural phenomenon. The Ickey Shuffle was the most famous celebration in sports. He led the Bengals to the Super Bowl. He was the most famous person in Ohio. And then, just like that, the magic was gone. 2 games into his second season, his ACL tore. Back then, an ACL tear was basically a career death sentence. He struggled for a couple of years, but the burst was gone. The dance remained, but the dancer was a ghost. Ickey Woods was a shooting star that burned out, but our next prodigy didn't just burn out, he was blacklisted. Imagine being so talented that you're compared to Randy Moss, but so self-destructive that the NFL would rather pretend you never existed. If you didn't watch Justin Blackmon at Oklahoma State, you missed a glitch in the Matrix. He was the only 2-time Biletnikoff winner. When the Jaguars took him 5th overall in 2012, people thought the AFC South was over. In his first year, with a rotating door of terrible quarterbacks, he put up nearly 900 yards. In one game against the Texans, he had 236 yards. He was a monster. But Blackmon had demons that the NFL's structure couldn't fix. A string of DUIs and substance abuse suspensions kept him off the field. He played 20 games in his career. 20. He hasn't played a snap since 2013. Yet he wasn't officially retired for years. He just stopped being. He is the ultimate too dark for ESPN story, because his talent was Hall of Fame level. But his exit was a tragedy played out in courtrooms instead of end zones. Blackmon's disappearance was a slow burn, but our next guy was a flash, literally. He's the only player in NFL history to make the league look like a high school JV squad for 1 year, only to become a cautionary tale for the next decade. You know the name, but do you remember the Prodigy? In 2013, Josh Gordon did something that shouldn't be possible. He missed the first 2 games of the season due to suspension, played for a Cleveland Browns team that was a literal dumpster fire, and still led the NFL with 1,646 receiving yards. He had back-to-back 200-yard games. He was 6 feet 3 inches, ran like a deer, and caught everything. He was 22 years old. We spent the next 10 years waiting for the Flash to come back. Every time he was reinstated, the hype train left the station. But the Prodigy of 2013 never returned. He became a journeyman, a fan-controlled football player, an XFL player. The NFL's greatest physical specimen became a nomad. Gordon was a victim of his own struggles, but sometimes the NFL itself is the villain. Sometimes a team drafts a chosen one and then proceeds to let him get hit so many times that he retires at age 29 just to save his own life. This is the one that still hurts. Andrew Luck was the most perfect prospect since John Elway. He was big, he was smart, he was fast, and he was nice. He took a 2-14 Colts team to the playoffs 3 years in a row. He was the heir to the throne. But the Colts forgot one thing: an offensive line. Luck spent his career being treated like a crash test dummy. Lacerated kidney, torn labrum, concussions, rib fractures. In 2019, during a preseason game, the news leaked. Andrew Luck was retiring. He was 29. The stadium booed him. That's the dark reality of the NFL. You can give your soul to a city, and if you leave to save your brain, they'll boo you on the way out. Luck walked away with his dignity. But what about the guys who lose their minds before they even lose their jobs? Let's look at the most talented bust in history. A man whose arm was a cannon, but whose heart was anywhere but the film room. We can't talk about forgotten prodigies without the king of the busts. Jamarcus Russell had an arm that could throw a ball 70 yards through a brick wall while sitting on his butt. He was 6 feet 6 inches, 260 pounds. He was the #1 overall pick. The stories of Jamarcus are legendary for all the wrong reasons. The blank DVD trick, where coaches gave him a blank disc to see if he'd watch film. He lied and said he did. The weight gain, the lack of want to. He made $36 million and played 31 games. He didn't just fail, he became the human embodiment of wasted potential. He is the reason rookie contracts are capped today. He literally broke the economy of the NFL. Jamarcus was a lack of effort, but what about a lack of luck? Imagine being the most electric player in the world, a human joystick, only to have your career ended by a tackle that looked routine, but was actually a death sentence for your hip. Bo Jackson isn't forgotten in the sense that we don't know his name. He's forgotten in the sense that we forgot how scary he was. Bo was a hobbyist. He played football for fun when he wasn't playing baseball, and he was still the best player on the field. In 1990, Bo was at the peak of his powers. Then, in a playoff game against the Bengals, a routine tackle dislocated his hip. But because Bo was so strong, his muscles actually pulled the bone back into the socket so hard it ruptured the blood vessels, causing the bone to die. A prodigy who could outrun anyone was suddenly a man who needed a hip replacement at age 28. The NFL lost its Superman, and we were left with nothing but 8-bit Tecmo Bowl highlights. The NFL is a beautiful, violent machine. We love the stars who make it to the Hall of Fame, but the prodigies the world forgot are the ones who truly tell the story of the league. They remind us that greatness is fragile. It can be taken by a blade of grass, a beach in Hawaii, a bad decision, or a front office that doesn't care if you live or die as long as you sell tickets. These names, Cook, Edwards, Blackman, Luck, they aren't failures. They're warnings. They are the ghosts that haunt the draft every year, reminding the next generational talent that the NFL doesn't owe you a happy ending.